to absorb enough raw materials, because it will cause your healing later on. It will help your healing later on. You get where I'm coming from? It is raw. It's I become a gatherer of stones because I want to go hunting. I become a gatherer of materials because I want to be sure that I remember where this journey stopped. I want to remember each step of the way, what I was encountering each step of the way. The more vivid that memory is, the easier it is to let go of the other one. So it becomes the power of the mind, power of your mind. Your mind has the power to direct pain, to direct joy. But you have to feed it that data, like a computer. A computer, maybe like AI, for instance, it's as much information as it gets that it can give you whatever you want from it, right? Without the right information, it's like, I don't know if this is right, but it's like you go to a manufacturer in China, and I have learned from people that have done that you have to be really sure what you really want, and you have to articulate it very well for you to get.
Anthony, thank you for taking the time to share your journey with us at Curator. Our magazine is dedicated to distilling and organizing quality content that helps our readers navigate through the noise of daily life. Our goal is to curate lifestyle and consumer guides to decrease the number of decisions people have to make and encourage our audience to live more enriching and productive lives. We strive to inspire our readers, not just through entertainment, but also showcasing journeys like yours, which are filled with wisdom, creativity, and enlightenment. At Curator, we also put an emphasis on mental and physical health and incorporate focused philosophies and spiritual guidance into our work. Our goal is to illuminate pathways for individuals to improve their lives and find a sense of fulfillment. We believe your unique perspective and articulation of the world around us will greatly resonate and inspire members of our audience. I'm excited to delve into your story. Thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today. I know you're a busy man and have a lot going on, evidently. So why don't we start with a bit about your story, and would you walk me through a little bit how you came to be an artist? Maybe a memory from your childhood that impacted where you are today.
Now that's a long time ago. Yeah. So I was like playing with my friends, growing up. Maybe I was 5 years old or so. And I would look up to those skies, and then we had been watching all these movies, these Bible stories, Moses, the Bible, and I don't know, I guess it made so much impression on me that I would look up to the clouds and I would see men on horses in the racing clouds and all of that. And I would point it out to my friends, and they wouldn't really see it, but I usually saw it, and then I would try to draw it on the floor. So I guess my earliest memory of art, or my earliest thought about creating, came from an inspiration from a vivid memory from all the movies I was watching and all of that, and then it went back, and suddenly I thought about representation. So memory became for me the important thing to create from.
From your memory?
Yes, firstly, I like relocating the things that I have experienced, the things I have seen. I like relocating it in the present, and fast forward to now, that's become the basis of my work, coming from memory, but I always like the material, the thing, the real. I always like to have experienced it, to have walked into it, to have been part of it. Then I step back and try to relocate it, try to document it, try to put it in a place that is fixated in my present life, And I think that came at some point, working from memory and all of that went like poof in the air, because suddenly I learned about surrealism, where memory and time starts doing a lot of all sorts of things in how humans think about events, think about experience and all of that. So for me, and it became much more easier for me to say to myself that I could only be articulate when I walked in more abstract terms, when I walked without, not just about memory, but with, as an observer, remove my presence from the work in a way that allow the work to become organic, to grow on its own, to stand on its own, separate from me. Because I realize that whatever consciousness I bring to the moment, there are also things that I haven't dealt with from my past, from memory. There are issues and all of that. So I just bring in maybe half of the story, and the rest is really not spelled out fully. So when I think about it, the question becomes: is my work ever really finished? Is it ever really finished? And I believe it becomes finished in the mind of the viewer, in the mind of my audience, in the mind of the other person who encounters it. I believe my work is collaborative. So I'm working, but I need other presences. I need other people to encounter it. I need other spaces to give it more meaning, to give it more context and all of that. Sometimes it grows in ways that I realize I don't really have any control over what I'm doing. So it's exciting in that way, But I put a signature on it, I put a date on it and all of that. And that is me getting off that canvas, getting off that artwork, saying, okay, Anthony, you can go and rest. Yeah. But if one day I have a different consciousness and all of that, I can just start working on that same painting again. Yeah.
Well, I guess to me it sounds like, or one of your, was like looking up at the stars and seeing something that's not explicitly there in the forms. There's not a course of the stars, but something you see and feel. It's also representative in your work, and I guess you've had the transformation to more abstract depictions of events, and to me it's striking because you really do feel something when you look at different pieces, And I think that there's great power in the lack of form, and it's really something that's added to your work. And in life in general, I guess there are so many things that we deal with that aren't explicit, or if our life is a empty canvas when we start, we're going about, and I think a lot of the times, at least I don't know where the strokes are going, and it's a lot of intuition.
True. And a lot of memorizing, a lot of documenting, a lot of relaying. So we become like channels. We become a conduit. So it's like from one point to the other, we become that bridge that translates, that conveys meaning, that communicates an experience, that communicates an idea, And the thing that you said something about the figurative and the absence of the figurative in my work. I have loved toying with all of that, so I keep doing this back and forth where I say to myself, I see it, it's there, it's real, it's really, I know it intimately, I know it, I can touch it. Then at some point I let it dissolve again when the form is absent, where it's silent, where you just hear suggestions of it. So sometimes in my work, when you come across my work and look at it properly, you still get the sense that this person understands about an atom. Somehow it still creeps in. And I like that. I like how that happens. I enjoy the surprise of knowing that, okay, I am conscious about what is really there. So it's like, I think I said this to you before, it's like sleight of hand, where you're showing your hand here and then you're doing something else with the other hand. The thing the magician does with the rabbit and all of that. So yeah, it's something I've been thinking about. And I guess it comes with some sort of restlessness also about having all these ideas and saying, what am I going to share? What is authentic? What would add to the narrative? What will improve on the context that we see things, and choosing becomes kind of problematic when you have become so conscious of your space, so you become sensitive, so suddenly you want to let it all out. All the ideas are coming at you at like maybe, I don't know what kind of speed, but you want to share all of it. And you sort of see that kind of energy in my studio, right? With the way I spread out all over the place, and it's almost like I'm stretching myself thin in such a way that it becomes like, meshes. So you have thin layers, so many thin layers, but that becomes very strong because you have places where there is silence and it's quiet. But in between those layers, it becomes very strong, and you can use a lot of very thin layers and build a mesh that it could even protect you from bullets. So my work becomes that place where I'm trying to build up sensitivity, I'm trying to communicate personal values and all that, but at the same time I realize that all these are born out of experience, are born out of community, experiencing people, meeting people, and all of that. So individuality becomes a thing that I own. Individuality actually becomes the thing that I share with people through my work. And knowing the fact that I am many things that you are, that every other person around me is humbling. It's humbling in that it says to me, okay, you're not so different, but so sharing that common humanity allows me to, let go of any suggestions that, oh, this is extraordinary and all of that. The only thing that needs to be done is the work, and I keep doing the work. And whoever wants to judge should judge, but me, I don't judge myself. I don't.
It's very admirable to me how resilient and mature you have become with processing your feelings and experiences, and it's certainly inspiring to me. You mentioned in your writing that your interaction with the phrase boys don't cry, or men don't cry, in dealing with grief and deeply emotional experiences in a really important way. And to me it sounds like you've had extraordinary experiences with coming to terms with your sensitivity, and I guess expressing really the importance of going within, and there's a power in that, and you said it's even bulletproof. Would you go more into that about really being aware of certain things that happen, the importance of processing and sharing stories?
Yeah, inside of emotions and all of that, I've experienced a bit, so I've nearly died a few times from all sorts of stupid growing up stories, right? And adventures, right? So I've got scars. And at some point, in 2004, I think, I nearly lost my left leg. And they wanted to do a graft when it was healing. They wanted to do a graft to cover it and make it look pretty and all that. I said, I want it to be that way so that I could see it. So I could always remember. Remembering the journey is the best part of life, and going through things, it can be really difficult when you're going through it, but like I said before, memory plays a very important part in our healing. I found a way to relocate myself in my most intimate experiences growing up, my most joyful experiences from the past, when I'm like inside of very difficult times, when I'm in pain and all that. I started doing this to my mind. I started using that kind of thinking about the experience where I had the utmost joy in the time when I'm in darkness and all of that. It becomes an opportunity to relive that event, to feel that same emotion of joy that I felt in the past. it became a tool for me to be translated out of the moment that is difficult and had to get through, And so I used to do that to my mind a lot. So when I'm like in a bubble, I'm in a fog, I'm all crazy, like very unhappy and all that, I just kind of close my eyes and go back to that place, that joyful place, and try to feel it, to sense it, to smell it, to see it. And when I start doing all of that with my senses, the present pain no longer counts. It doesn't have any power over my mind. It doesn't have any power over my body. I'm teleported literally out of the moment into some other place. And with all that happening in my life, I started realizing that maybe there is no such thing as time. Time is a construct that people try to use to stay in the moment and all that, but time could dissolve if you have the mindset to think about it. The power of time becomes deadlines and all of that, but I don't know, did I speak with you about playing a guitar? You play guitar? No?
I do not.
Okay, so there was someone that came here and we were talking about time, and he said he would start playing a guitar, he would practice on a guitar for like 2 hours, just a phrase, just a bar of music, and he would replay it for 2 hours, and he would not know he had done 2 hours, but his parents will come in and say, how come you've been playing this same thing for 2 hours? But to him, time maybe it looked like 10 minutes for him. Just like the way I start painting and suddenly things like hunger don't happen to me again, sleep doesn't happen to me again, and a lot of other things. I think with the creative mind, time dissolves, it doesn't matter anymore. We break it, it becomes nanoseconds, tiny, tiny moments, which you can always do a back and forth with, depending on how well you live it, on how much you embrace that living and all of that. So I want to experience things, and I want to smell it, I want to touch it, I want to embrace it, I want to see it, I want to be in each moment. So when I speak about growing older, I say to myself, growing older is about living daily, every day. It's not about just sedentary living, it's about filling it with memories, so every second counts, It's important for me, that consciousness, being present becomes an opportunity to be young forever. But if you're going to be mourning in the past and all of that, then suddenly you're old. I don't know if it's a bad thing, I don't know. Being old also is also beautiful, I think, age. But like I said again, age doesn't really matter to me, time doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the moments, what you give to each second. That's all,
So, you mentioned when you're dealing with the dark times and moments that you think of joyful moments, you almost don't give those feelings. Do you ignore those feelings and focus your awareness on your joyful moments?
Yeah, so anyone that has been through bone problems, bone, will tell you that it can be very painful. Bone. And then the drugs don't do it at some point. You are at that verge of becoming addicted to painkillers for the rest of your life. You have to be out of there. You have to be out of that pain, that moment, all of that for you to move on. I just realized that if you focus on what's happening and all of that, it causes more pain. It causes so much more pain. But taking your mind to some other space becomes an opportunity to let go of that pain, to start forgetting the pain. I think is it chiropractors that put a pin into part of your body and it eases pain somewhere else in your body.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture, yes. Acupuncture, yeah. So with what I do with my mind, so I fixate on something somewhere else, and then this one that is hitting me immediately doesn't have any power over me anymore. Same principle, same every time,
So it's really sounds to me like a balance of your consciousness and your present awareness has the potential to alleviate pain and take away your focus and put it on better times. But then also, when you're in the moment, during better times, you're able to put the focus in the here and now to really appreciate and almost slow time down in that moment when you're in a flow state of passion and expression and really feeling almost where your soul is meant to be. I think is a really beautiful thing, and you can also express yourself for others to see. But I guess the balance to me,
it is balance, but it's not almost slow time down. It is slowing time down to absorb enough raw materials, because it will cause your healing later on. It will help your healing later on. You get where I'm coming from? It is raw. I become a gatherer of stones because I want to go hunting. I become a gatherer of materials because I want to be sure that I remember where this journey started. I want to remember each step of the way, what I was encountering each step of the way. The more vivid that memory is, the easier it is to let go of the other one. So it becomes the power of the mind, power of your mind. Your mind has the power to direct pain, to direct joy. But you have to feed it that data, like a computer. A computer later, maybe like AI, for instance, it's as much information as it gets that it can give you whatever you want from it, right? Without the right information, it's like, I don't know if this is right, but it's like you go to a manufacturer in China, and I have learned from people that have done that you have to be really sure what you really want, and you have to articulate it very well for you to get. So like how many minutes was that one? It buffers and stuff.
maybe like 30 minutes.
So
Cool.
now it's 30 minutes. So.
The Zoom. Well, yeah, computers are certainly interesting, and also what they can reveal about us. Almost, well, in ways that were similar and also ways that we're different. But to me, I right away think about the data you give a computer. If we, like thinking about our humans as computers, you said before the power of environment and other people, experiences, the fact that your art is in a lot of ways collaborative.
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned before how your art is a collaborative experience, which is not. It doesn't seem intuitively collaborative because you're the one with the paints and the canvas. But the power, like how computers take in the data, and that's what they represent. The power of your environment influencing you and your expression, your experiences, the different people. How does your environment impact your work and different places you're in? Does your work change based on your location?
Well, you get forced to address the people that are standing in your space in front of you. You get forced to enter into a conversation. That's how. It may be seen as arrogant to close your eyes when you're in front of people, to shut up when people say hello, to not acknowledge other presences. It may seem people might write you off in so many ways and all of that. So that's how I get affected, I don't know if I would say you get forced to communicate. You can either embrace it or it becomes a painful thing that drags you out of your body, out of yourself, out of whatever you're feeling.
How so?
I said, how so? Well, I have this idea in my head that I want to put out there. And then somebody walks in. It's like a bomb. It's explosive. That idea could disappear. I could lose it forever. Just because somebody walked in. It's that powerful. And it's just somebody walking to your space. It happens all the time. The only thing I say to myself is, if it's valid, that idea I had, if it's valid, if it's authentic, if it needs to be out there, my environment will let it come out. Any interference would only prune it, would only refine it. So I started embracing these accidents. I call them happy accidents. It's always about perspective, really. Perspective, mindset, perspective. How do you see things when they happen, not the way you planned it? Embracing the moment with its dynamics in its context. Now, I can't experience you with a set mindset, but I could experience you as we interact, as you reveal yourself. So that's it for me, That's it for me. I'm not like, in my head. I know, I because I have a lot in my head. There are these demons, there are these angels all over me, but we become the voices we acknowledge in our heads, or the voices we silence. You know, we have to realize that we have much more power to guide our emotions. That's control. You know, when you start owning the right to create your narrative, to write your own story, you take it away from external influences and affectations. It's like becoming responsible for every act that you're doing, for every action. Responsibility allows you to also be more self-restraining. So sometimes you say, I'm not going to do this because I know the consequences of doing this. I'm going to do this because I know where it's leading me to. You know? Responsibility. Self.
So, a lot of things. The responsibility you have in your actions, in acting upon your thoughts, is what at the root guides your responsibility. Like what morality or do you have certain rules for yourself, certain things you follow, certain principles that you won't break? How are those defined? Did you define those for yourself, or are they external?
Growing up, you become a bundle of experiences. It becomes learned. You know, it becomes given to you. Statements, absolutes like this is white and this is black. These are absolutes that are given to you. You know, and you start accepting such things. So yeah, experience, memory. It came at me. If I was in an island when I was born and blah 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 blah, I'm sure that I would have other experiences that would educate me in a certain way, and that would allow me to have responses in a certain way, different from what I have now. Right? So that's what it is, you know. We're growing up, we're being all over the place, and traveling a bit. I started embracing otherness. I started embracing other cultures, other environments, other lifestyles, other mindsets, other religions. Not that I became part of those experiences, but I let those experiences stand up as legit and gave them the respect that they deserve. From a point of not knowing, but also from a point of appreciation that is some other person's story. You know?
There are a lot of times when I struggle with the balance between action and inaction. There are a lot of times when I'm fearful of doing something, or I don't want to, I'm hesitant to be in a vulnerable place, even though maybe I know more rationally that it will be good for me to put myself in those situations or start on those ideas. How do you approach the decisions where you decide whether to do an action or to not do an action? Is there a inner discussion you have or instinct? Because I don't think you should do everything you think. But then if you do nothing, then you're not gonna make any change or grow.
Well, growing up meant, at that time, growing up meant for me doing everything possible, just stay alive, but do everything that you can. Have all the experiences. Just remember self-preservation. Then at some point, you've been there, you've done that, and so you tell yourself what not to do. That's all. But the question one has that is that self-criticism where you ask yourself, what are the consequences of this act, this action? Short term, long term, medium term. If you're fine short term, medium term, if you're still fine, long term, are you going to be fine with it? If all these three are answered, why don't you do it? Just do it. So that's how I think about these things. Why don't you do it? Short term, long term, medium term. You mark those boxes and then why not? For me that's it, because there's the audacity of youth. There's the audacity of a child, the innocence that allows the child to literally put his fingers in fire. It can be so beautiful. And I believe strongly that even as an adult, when you don't know the consequences in short term, medium and long term of an action, it could be interesting to just try it and see what happens. But own whatever happens. If you feel you're not going to own it totally, I'm hesitant about doing it. I want to say I did this, I was conscious, I knew I chose to do this. That I did this, so I lost my mind. You lost your mind. So you left your body. You left your body out of the equation, which means you could actually have your body. Well, some people it counts, some people it doesn't count, some people, they put their bodies through a lot of stuff, It's, I don't know, different strokes. I can't say I'm an authority on anything, on anybody's lifestyle choices, but I want to be here for a moment, more than a moment, again and again, doing those things that add value, I want to, so that's it. So I want to smell the roses, I keep feeling that with experience, there is still a whole lot that hasn't happened, that will still happen, And so I'm not limited. I'm just, you know what I tell my friends now, my people I grew up with, I say to them, don't grow old on me, please, because we haven't even started. We have not started. You think we're living the life, we've not started. Please don't grow old on me. I have that sense that, it's just the beginning. Every day is a beginning. Very particular, very different from yesterday. I want to see it that way, with fresh eyes, kind of not with assumptions, not with notions from the past that could make you be more cautious, for instance, become slow, for instance.
You said you want to smell the roses.
Yeah.
As so far as desire and love as a theme, do you have any memories or things that stand out in terms of indulging different desires? And in terms
How can you be asking me that question? I'm the one telling you about living on my memories like a vampire. How can you be asking me that? I have so many memories, man. I have a lot. I promise you. So like growing up for me was always about making memories. Collecting memories. Because I've always said, I say to myself, it will become an opportunity to share all these crazy stories with my grandchildren, to share growing up with them. Yeah. So, I don't know. I hopefully would want to answer you that every memory counts. This memory counts. Yesterday's memories, solid. Every day. So I don't know which will stand out. Okay, I've had shocks. I've had points where I nearly died. I've had points where I've had so much joy, like you could feel in sex, or your mom embracing you, saying prayers over you, or success at some endeavor, doing well in school, getting an award for something that you did, getting a promotion. These are they call them like cornerstones. So this one is here, that one is there. But in between there's a lot that is also happening that you may not be fully appreciative of. That may even have more impact in your life than the one that is visually bigger. The one that seemed like it was an important thing.
Cornerstone memories?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. But if you're going to be fixated on some major event, it's usually because you're judging that event. But when you realize that you're not the master, so what you think is a big deal might really not be anything. It might really not really matter. Letting go is a very big thing. Letting go, it's a big part of living life. The ability to let go on your fixations so they don't weigh you down. So that the time you want to fly, you can soar. But when you're fixated on, this is the event, this is the moment. I've had great memories, yes. I've had great memories, but I think it's going to get better. I don't know how, you know, I think it's going to get better. Whatever I've experienced, I ain't seen nothing yet. You know, I live with the possibility of more. Exponential growth beyond what my mind can see. My mind is made up of all the memories, all the remembering, all of the history. Beyond my mind, there's something else that I haven't come into, that hasn't started manifesting, that I haven't started articulating in my living. But it's coming. I don't know if I make sense.
Oh, it does. You mentioned your mother, and I read some of what you wrote about painting her portrait, and that has spoke deeply to me about certain things, and also would you walk through a bit about the process of painting her portrait and some feelings you went through, or anything you reflect about that experience as it relates?
Now, I think somewhere in my mind, becoming an artist has to do with my mother being present, or me dragging her into my playtime, you know, and enjoying how her eyes lit up at my documenting, at my working with references, drawing her portrait, and all of that. And in hindsight, I think also that I felt there was this very strong, this powerful presence that art could have on real life when her portrait hung behind her in the living room, and she will be with her friends and they're talking, or well, you know, she's sitting in the living room having, you know, it's like the portrait becomes like a mirror of someone's soul, and having a portrait where you're smiling and all of that, and the portrait is looking you in the face. How can you think of crying? How can you think of having a bad day? You know?
Yeah.
So art has that powerful way of confronting life, of mimicking life in such a way that you're teleported out of that place into the realm of dreaming, into the realm of an impossible situation, for instance. So art becomes an uncomfortable reminder sometimes of stuff, you know? And it can be an open door to new stuff, to possibilities, to hope. So art gains this function that calms troubled waters, that puts us to bed, that gives us happiness, that art becomes powerful. Sometimes, you know, I see it. It's basically the storytelling of dressing up, of putting up a presence. It's powerful. It's powerful. And if that could be effective in presenting an image of yourself. Art does the same thing. Arts in that storytelling. That is always happening with us in our environment. That's what I think. You know, I don't know if I'm trying to put art up there. I don't know, but well, I'm an artist. That's what I do. So art is up there for me. But it's also here. Then it's also everywhere. That's it. You know, that's it. That's it. I can't put it in a box and say this is what it is. I realize it is what is in the box, and I realize it's also a lot of the stuff around the box. And it's also a lot of the stuff that you can't articulate.
As an artist, you have a very unique role in portraying history, and some art is even older than any writings or written history, in a way of depicting or symbolizing certain things. And you mentioned this with a portrait and dressing up a portrayal. What importance and responsibility do you feel as someone who has a powerful voice in history and portraying experiences and places, people?
You know, this conversation has happened a million times in the past, where the question is, what is the place of art in society? What is the role of art in society? And blah, 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 blah. You know, a million professors have spoken to that. And for instance, Tokyo Factory Art Center, is it going to remain an art center, or are they going to tear it apart and make it into some, because it's suddenly on prime property, it's in a choice location, blah blah blah. So it's, what's the role of the artist in society? What is the need of having art? It's, in many people's minds, very questionable. In many people's minds, you can put it in terms of currency. It's $1 more or $1 less. Important. Sadly, I find that people have that conversation even around a space like this that has continued to do this for 50 years, and they don't get it. I say they don't get it. Literally, if they have been with me when I've met people who walk through this space, hear stories, share stories, they will understand that there's something else. There's something else about the art. They will understand that there is a function that art serves. There is a purpose for it. Deliberately, for bringing in a certain kind of consciousness. Without that, man becomes a machine. All the nuances. So all of these become, I just hope they give art a chance. As much as they give that choice to, as much as every human being makes up his or her mind or their mind about what I'm going to wear today to this meeting. Something as minuscule as how I'm going to say hello or not say hello, who I'm going to have a drink with or not have a drink with. Art has a refining role in our lives, and without it, it's all cold and still and concrete buildings. Art allows trees to grow. That's where I see it. Anytime I could philosophize and all of that. What I say to people, the truth is, a medical doctor would be a better person if he has some training in fine art. Because fine art says to you, you're thinking about being different. So even though you now get into all these things that bottle you up and you follow certain rules and all of that, because you had that initial training which allowed you to dream, invention can happen, innovation can happen in any field, be you a lawyer, an engineer, whatever. But if your training is just to be XYZ, dreaming doesn't become possible. Again and again, dreaming, you immediately, it's not about your field, you realize the person is clueless. So you see a professor at a bar and he is lost. He can't say a word. Because, okay, he's a professor of geometry, a professor of science, but the conversation is not around science, it's just about living. Maybe gardening, doing garden work and all that. Maybe dancing, and this person is lost. I think the full man must think about refinement. Art speaks to such things, to beauty, to aesthetics, to an appreciation of other things. That liberation, that liberty comes with being an artist, with being involved with the arts. Not from staring away, turning away from it.
Well, yeah, any form of individual expression is an art. Or are you saying like how you say hello, the way you dress, you make certain decisions, interacting with different people? It's all a way to express yourself, to take what you've experienced, shape it, be a conduit, put it forward. And everyone, it's accessible to everyone. Fine arts has its own way of expression, literature, poems, that's a different form of art. Like, anyone can grow from.
You know the definition. Let me just quickly, the definition. The one very basic definition I got about art. You know what it said? Art is self-expression. It's one definition that I got early on. Before every other thing. Before art is painting, sculpture, music. Very basic. Which means it spreads everywhere. Suddenly becomes a tree that branches out. And how can you not want that tree in your garden? How can you not want the affecting power of art on society? How can you choose to uproot it? Because you want to build bricks still. You want to create a cold wall. Again and again, that's what happens. Again and again, every time art is taken out from the people. The age of the machine, coldness, fear of AI, creeps in. Art is humanity, giving it all. Art is about embracing your humanity. Art is enjoyed when people can trace the markings of that human endeavor. It's mark making that narrates experiences. It's mark making that is individualistic. I keep hoping that my grandchildren will come into the world to enjoy these things, to enjoy art as having purpose, as being present in our everyday living. Keep hoping, man. Take it out there. Man, I'm gonna go live on the moon with, live somewhere else, leave the space. All the coldness, what will really survive? Take out.
Thinking about education, the role of education in society, the future of education, I believe it has a lot of change to be made, especially with all the changes in technology. To me, I imagine education 100, 200 years is maybe entirely art and self-expression and learning how to embrace humanity. As you were saying, it's a deeply human endeavor, and it brings color, darkness to our life, context, history. I could see a future where machines do a lot of the numbers and thinking and rationality and equations, and humans are a sort of mix and contrast to that. How do you see education, the role of education in our future, if you were to imagine?
Well, like I could just sound like every other person and give up hope on the future generation, There's this thing about how we always think that things are getting worse. The good old days, and all of that. I just believe strongly that man has been here long enough to know that in his DNA, in our DNA, is a code that allows us to survive to the next level. And no matter how hard it becomes, man will just become a hybrid. It will evolve into other things. I don't know what it will be that will allow his continuance, But that will be a lot of digging into the future, right? Education there will be, like every other thing, there are good things that will happen and bad things that will happen. So I have a sense that a lot of numbness, a lot of dumbness will happen, but also a lot of exponential knowledge of things will happen on the other hand. I don't know how to balance it, but man will find their way through. You know, humanity will find a way. That's what I think. And machines, you know, we've always had this fear of the new. When the camera came out, the artist felt challenged and all of that. When the computer came out, the paperless office was going to happen. Well, I don't see. It's still crazy. People are still printing newspapers and all. In fact, the amount of junk mail you get from the post office and all that every month is crazy. so I think man will find a way. Education, hopefully, we will find middle ground to live in moderation. A little of this, a little of that. Hopefully, children will not just sit on the couch playing video games all day, but they will also remember that you can play outside with Tom next door, so that you can develop social skills also, not just be mechanical and all of that. So with moderation and with looking at civilizations, the only thing that, like through history, you realize that the only thing that happened in civilization is that certain civilizations became self-destructive, and they were erased, but other civilizations rose up. So the superpower might not be where you think you are. The earth is moving, and where power rests might not be where you are. Tomorrow it might be somewhere else. It's happened again and again in history. Remember the British Empire? It's become something that some people may not remember again.
Well, they left their mark and their scars, but they're not nearly as big as they were.
So the earth is moving, and we must accept that. The ground is shifting right under our feet. That's a fact. Anything else?
As you were saying, like when kids on the couch and video games and the internet, that's becoming more and more prevalent with the rise of technology and TikTok and video games, huge industries with money and sucking people's time. A lot of people are watching TV and movies. What do you think? You mentioned moderation and a balance, but do you think there is a place for video games and movies and like that relaxation, but so some say it's an unproductive use of your time?
I think there's a place for all of that. There's a place for all of that, and the truth is, all this development you're seeing here might just be an American phenomenon. that is not happening in Nigeria, for instance. Because they don't have electricity, for instance. Because they don't have access to the internet, for instance. No, you know, like I said, the earth is moving. Some people are using gaming to create mind-blowing technologies. So it depends on what each space is doing with what they've got. So it might mean that tomorrow the superpower is not this place, somewhere else. Depends on what the people choose to do with their time, with what they have. That's all I think. So yeah, and civilization just keeps happening in different ways, in different places. That's the truth. At some point, one part of the world will need the other part of the world. In fact, it's happening again and again. It keeps happening. No part of the world can stay on its own. Sovereign nation, bullshit. There's nothing like that. There's a dependency on the Commonwealth of Nations. Total dependency. China is all over the place. America, all over the place. So you're affected by other spaces that are not even yours. You know it. No matter whatever you say. No matter how much denial you give. The decisions made in Africa affects the rest of the world. As much as the decisions made in America affects Africa. Yes, I don't know now the scale, I don't know, and all of that. I don't know if there is any right or wrong way of judging on, indices or influence, and more influence or less influence. I don't know. But, every action, like they say in science, has an equal and opposite reaction. That's what happens all the time. Matter and the states of being. Nothing is in isolation. I hit this. There's a sound that comes out. So many other things are happening just because I hit this. So that's what I could say.
Well, and also like the interconnectedness of people across the world, like that you never know what your influence on someone can have on someone else or something in nature. In a way, we're all connected with each other and having
Totally. And that connection, we see it more and more. The impact that chocolate will have on the world is affected by the forest in Africa. It's, if you just dig a little deeper, it all comes together. All comes together. The interdependency of all.
So, what would you say? Do you feel a certain responsibility because of that interdependence?
Yeah, I do. And I also accept that there are parts outside of me that I don't have any control over. Yeah. So I have to. We've spoken for 2 hours.
Oh, really?
2 hours. I have to get to my
Yeah, of course.
my wife. I need to go drop the car. Well,
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
thank you. So you can cut out the part about cat.
Oh yeah. I'll do a lot of work on that. But yeah, I mean, learned a lot. Thank you. I guess I'll try and see if you can hear everything in audio.